Hi everyone, I'm back with a new video. Today we're going to talk about steampunk books. So first of all, for anyone who doesn't know, steampunk refers to a literary slash music slash movie genre that takes place in sort of a fake Victorian era setting where the technology has changed a bit. So there are airships and other strange mechanical things just running around, and so it makes for a very interesting setting. Every time I've tried to explain it to people who don't know what steampunk is, they usually say, well, that's not punk. Or they say, but there were no airships in the Victorian era. It's not exactly the point of it, really. It's a really difficult thing to define. You kind of have to just show somebody something that's steampunk and they go, oh, okay. Um, so what makes a book a steampunk book and what makes it fit into the steampunk genre? When you look for steampunk books on Goodreads or wherever, really, a lot of things show up that I'm not sure should count as steampunk. So, like, the Golden Compass counts as a steampunk book, apparently. I was pretty surprised about that because I'm really not sure that counts at all. A Series of Unfortunate Events counts as a steampunk book, and The Looking Glass Wars counts as a steampunk book. For those of you who have read that, I'm really not sure what makes that a steampunk book either. But I guess it's all just kind of relative. Like, I mean, if you have to pick between The Golden Compass and Twilight, I don't know, and say which one's more steampunky, it's pretty obvious that The Golden Compass is, but that doesn't make it a steampunk book, basically. So, I mean, in my opinion, so basically, when I'm talking about steampunk books, I'm just gonna go with kind of the true steampunk books that really can be defined as very little else, and all of that stuff, and not necessarily like ones that sort of just have an old timey setting and don't really change anything else. So, the thing about steampunk books is that they're not always that great. Some of them actually are severely lacking in plot or in any character development, and so they're not actually that interesting plot wise because they're just so focused on this setting. The Anubis Gates, I personally found to be extremely boring. Chenda and the Airship Rofman, I also found to be extremely boring. The Court of the Air was pretty much one of the most boring books I've ever read. And yeah, so all of those, it's not that the setting isn't good, because the setting is what makes it a steampunk book, and the author clearly gave the setting a good amount of thought, but the setting, like the plot and the character development, are not as well thought out at all in favor of having a better setting, it seems like. So the amount of steampunk books I've read that were actually good, that I really liked, are surprisingly few in number compared to the ones that I didn't get anything out of. So there are a lot of steampunk books that I haven't read, and I feel just ashamed to admit that I have not read The Bone Shaker or A Dream of Perpetual Motion. Those are definitely, they've been on my to be read list for a very long time. So I guess I've got maybe 3 steampunk books that I really, really liked and that everyone should read if they get a chance. So the first one is A Map of Time, and that's kind of a weird book, actually. Like, it's not really a true steampunk book that couldn't possibly be defined as anything else, but it really is at the same time. Like, it has so many elements of, like, a steampunk book, pretty much, that that you can't really argue that it's not. Also, the Leviathan series by Scott Westerfeld is a really awesome series. The first one is Leviathan, And that even has like pictures of what everything, all the technology and everything looks like. Like the illustrations in the books are pretty awesome, just as awesome as the plot, really. It's sort of a faux World War One series, so it's like interesting how the different countries have sort of different technologies. Where like the people in um, a good portion of Europe have like mechanical things that they ride in, and then the people in England sort of have weird genetically modified things so that what they're using is actually alive, but they're not. So like this airship is made out of a whale, and they use lizards that are genetically engineered to be able to repeat after somebody and like deliver a message in the person's exact words. So yeah, that's the Leviathan series, or the Leviathan trilogy, whatever it is. And then also another book that's worth mentioning is specifically the fifth book in the Green Rider series by Kristen Britton. So that series as a whole is not the least bit steampunk at all. It's actually like a high fantasy setting. Um, but in this specific book, it just came out a few months ago, and the main character actually gets transported like 200 years almost into the future of that world. And so what ends up happening is that she's suddenly in a steampunk world, basically. So instead of like the fantasy world that it takes place in, because so much has changed and so much technology has changed, and they tell time with things called chronospheres. They're like these mechanical things that go around killing everybody who breaks the rules, and yeah, it's very much a steampunk setting, even though that series has as a whole has nothing to do with steampunk. So I thought that was actually a really genius move on the author's part to take a book series that is a specific genre and just practically flip the genre on the readers. So that whole series, the Green Rider series, is definitely worth checking out. For sure, like it's really awesome, but it's the fifth book that I'm basically counting as a steampunk book here, because it's almost more steampunk than like a lot of the books that seem to count as steampunk that aren't really. So anyway, that's my take on steampunk books. I was hoping to dress up a little bit more for this video, but I couldn't find my shirt with the puffy sleeves, so this vest will just have to do. Um, and so I want to know what your favorite steampunk books are, if you have any. So please leave yours in the comments below. And until next time, bye.